Wow. We've got, yes, we've got Tel Aviv tonight. We've got Italy. We've got the States, Iraq. Wow, fantastic. And we've only just begun. I'm pleased to say as well that Collab writers have been featured in a new film industry magazine called Cut Frame Magazine. So we've had our first front cover and feature article. So you can download that and have a look at it for free digitally. So that's quite good news. Still letting people in, Giles?
No problem at all.
That's
lovely by me. Yeah, absolutely. And lovely to meet you, Jenny, properly. Hello.
You
How
too.
are you?
You
Hey,
too.
Elliot. How are you, buddy? All right. Good. Excellent. A lovely bunch of people. Delightful.
Well, I'm actually feeling quite starstruck, Giles. Having watched so many of your movies and things over the last week, I feel slightly sort of.
Bless you. That's very nice to hear, but please don't. It's just me in my loft.
Oh, bless you. And I suppose you must be so used to interviewing other people as well from the Filmmakers Podcast. How does it feel to sort of have the tables turned?
It's different. Yeah, it's much easier to ask the questions, I feel, now than to get questions at you. But yes, I've got very used to doing that. I've done over the 209th podcast episode is going out tomorrow. So, and it's all about filmmaking and making films. So I've got very used to hearing the sound of my own voice, but I've also got used to talking to great filmmakers and understanding the business even more. And that the podcast has been brilliant. I've met some amazing people from doing it. So yeah, very good.
Wow. Right, we'll give people a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Like I said, if you can put your cameras on, that would be lovely to see some cheery faces.
Absolutely.
And if you're not speaking, do put the cameras on mute, just because sometimes there's a bit of background interference.
Is everyone going to be asking questions as well? This is exciting.
Well, we certainly will at the, we'll leave time at the end of the session for that, Giles, definitely, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions.
Excellent. Swati's here as well. Hello, Swati. I'm just seeing who else is here. Hey, excellent. Perfect. Good. I love it. This is great. It's such a good thing you do as well. Collaborators. It's all about empowering people to make films, and that's what it's about, isn't it? Or writing, or just getting off your ass and doing it. And that's so important. More than anything else is having the motivation to start, and you're so inspiring by doing what you do. So it's wonderful. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Wonderful to have you. So are you okay if we record it, Giles?
Yeah, I can see it flashing away. It's all good. I'm used to that as well with the podcast. We record everything, so it's very, very normal. So no problem.
I will definitely, Elliot and I will have a look before we put it up to make sure that it's all okay. Okay, so without any further ado, let's kick off. Welcome, Giles Alderson. Very, very excited to have you here. You do so many things, Giles, that it's actually it's such a long list. Writer, filmmaker. You created and founded, and you host the podcast, your podcast, and your production company. There's just so much there. It's very, very impressive. Can you walk us through how you first kind of got into the industry, and how you've managed to sort of diversify into so many things?
Absolutely. And thank you, Jenny, for that lovely introduction. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Giles Alderson. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you. My journey's quite an interesting one, though it's not necessarily that unusual. All I wanted to do as a kid was play football. That's all I did. And I taught myself to dive on concrete to impress one of the older boys so I could save one of his penalties. And he went away on holiday and he came back and I was saving his penalties on concrete. And from there, I managed to get signed for Bradford City and I played all the way up. I played a few games at Valley Parade and then played for Harrogate Town. And all I did was want to play football. And I dislocated my arm playing basketball. I was also in the basketball team. I was quite sporty, didn't really like doing too much theory. I much preferred messing around, putting on plays with my friends. And I remember the school advisor came in and said, what do you want to do? You know, you had to fill out those boxes, these stupid things, and you tick all the things. And it eventually said, you're going to be a bricklayer. And you know, thanks very much for that. She said, actually, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm going to be a footballer. And she went, yeah, right. Okay, sure you are. I was having trials at York and somewhere else as well at the time, but I probably just wasn't good enough. But anyway, I'm not bitter. And she said, well, listen, I've heard you're in the school play and someone said you were really good. I went, yeah, okay, well, I enjoy it. It's good fun. And she said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a performing arts course. And I said, okay, you're going to go down now to the college and meet whoever's running it and see what you think. And I went down and I fell in love and I've never looked back. It was kind of one of those things where I saw all the people getting the lead roles and I wanted that. And I started to put on plays myself and give myself lead roles. I went, okay, I'm enjoying creating, but I want to be an actor. I'd got the burning desire to be an actor. And then I went off to university and did well enough to get a 2-1. I'd managed to study hard enough to do the written work well enough. And I'd worked my way up to get lead roles. And again, I was always putting on my own plays. We put on Bouncers or we put on Shakespeare. And then I managed to get into drama school. And then everything changed. I suddenly loved it and so much. And I was like, okay, maybe I can have a career of this. And when I did Shakespeare, toured around with Shakespeare, did the West End for a bit in musicals, did a load of, plays around and did some brilliant films like The Damned United, I Want Candy, did a load of horror films that I was the leads in. And I was loving it, but there was something missing. And during that time I was writing a lot, writing plays, and I was a member of the Royal Court Young Writers Programme, Soho Young Writers Programme, and I managed to get my plays put on. And there was something else inside me that was saying, when other directors were taking over and doing it, I could see it wasn't how I would do it. And I was getting really frustrated with that. So I started to direct them myself. And I, again, loved it. I loved working with actors and thought, no, but I want to be an actor. Don't direct. It's going to get in the way. And then our team had written a pilot for the BBC called Barry Brown, which is all about a stripper who was still trying to become a stripper in the world where no one wanted strippers anymore. And he had this really crappy agency and it was really fun. And the director pulled out last minute and I went, okay, I'll do it. And that day was, I think it was shot for 3 days, was the best. I couldn't have had more love, passion, excitement for what we created. And again, I had a brilliant DOP and I had brilliant actors around. So therefore it wasn't just me with an iPhone or back then, camcorder. Suddenly I felt like this is amazing. I can control something. I don't need to rely on anyone else, apart from myself in terms of the acting side. I was in it as well, which was probably the worst thing I've ever done because I was so worried about directing myself and saying, hey, I'm going to be the close up on me now. And it was really daunting and horrible and I'm terrible in it. But anyway, sadly that never got made with the BBC. What it did was give me this burning passion to be a director and to make films. And I spent the next 12 years trying to do that. And during that time, I had a lot of heartache. I had a lot of pain, a lot of projects that fell apart. We had big stars attached. We had Jason Statham attached to one of my projects. We had Fox Studios attached. It was all happening. And every time I progressed, I was the problem. Everyone's like, yeah, great, Giles, but I don't know if you're going to direct this. If Jason Statham comes literally with this all happens, he's going to kick you off, or Fox are just going to bring in someone else. So I was like, how am I going to do this myself? How am I going to be the person when they go, oh, Giles, you're useful. You're the cavalry now. You're not waiting for the cavalry to arrive. You don't need someone else's money or someone else's necessarily. You're actually useful. So I thought, okay, well, I need to write my own things. I always wrote Why am I relying on other writers to bring in projects? Why aren't I doing more myself? So I did. I started to develop scripts with other people, which I love to do. I love to collaborate with other writers. And yeah, I eventually wrote The Dare, which was my debut movie, which eventually got made. But as soon as I'd written it, I knew that there was a market for it. We specifically targeted the horror crowd who love those kind of gory movies with a psychological twist, but we knew our audience. And as soon as we knew our audience, we knew who we were targeting, sales, distribution, investors wise. And that made a massive difference for me. And suddenly we had interest. We had an investor straight away going, yeah, we can make this for 150 grand. And I was like, okay, great. Thinking, okay, this is going to be tough, but hey, who cares? It's your first movie. Go do it. You know, this would be amazing. And that person turned out to be crazy as hell, of course. And during that time, we thought, well, why don't we pitch it to the big Bulgarian studio who are making these kind of movies? Because my producer, Julian Kostov, who's amazing, wonderful actor as well, he said, well, I've just worked there. Why don't I pitch it? We did. We pitched it. He said, yeah, if Giles flies over tomorrow to Bulgaria, I'll see him. So I dropped everything I was doing. I booked a flight and I went to see the exec producer at this studio. And he, you know, we had a lovely chat for 2 hours. And then he showed me around the studio and he went, you know, and this studio is gorgeous, by the way. We're talking, they've got a New York set, a London set, a Gaylug, whatever. Basically an old place where people used to live thousands of years ago. They've got all these wonderful sets there and everything's set up and it's beautiful. So many studios. And he turned to me afterwards and said, so do you think you can make The Dare here? Well, yeah, of course I can. And then it took another 6 months after that, more pitching and more developing and more working. And eventually I got the green light and I managed to make my first movie. So that's a long-winded story. Apologies if that went on too long, but that's how I eventually got my first movie made.
That's so exciting, and I'm glad you sort of started with The Dare, because I watched it last night, and I have to confess, although I used to love horror when I was a kid, I'm just too scared of it now as an adult. And I watched it last night, and I am not joking. I have bitten my nails. I was up at 2 a.m. checking under the bed, checking the wardrobes, checking the door was locked. And I honestly have not been that scared, probably since I watched blooming Freddy Krueger age 10 or something like that. So I think you nailed it. I think it's absolutely awesome. I
Bless you. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. There's no question about it. You know, if you like your Saw movies, your Hostel movies, you like those type of movies, it has those elements to it, even though I feel it's got much more heart than that. And it is about bullying and redemption. And that's, you know, Saw movies often don't. Those Hostel movies are just, you know, gore for gore's sake. And that's great. There's an audience for it. But we wanted to just, you know, have a bit more of a twist and you feel for the bad guy. We really want you halfway through the movie for your allegiances to change. It's almost like, if you can imagine, falling in love with Freddy Krueger halfway through the movie, and not in a cool, sexy way, but in a, actually, no, I want him to really win. That's what we wanted to do. And we did, interestingly on that, the studio were brilliant, but after we'd done our first cut, there's a different ending. The original ending is different to the one you see.
Oh, I love the ending.
Oh, that's great. Well, with this ending, it means we can do sequels. With my ending, the original ending, there was no sequels involved here. This is well, there could have been, but he went on a different journey. So, and actually now we are talking about sequels, which is amazing. We did really big business in Holland, in the cinemas there, and Philippines. It did really ridiculously well, and that's just amazing, really, for my, you know, debut movie, to get it in the studio, get it distributed by Millennium Media, who do Hellboy and well, the sales agents, Hellboy and Rambo and all these amazing movies, you know, Ryan Reynolds movies. To suddenly have them behind me was a real joy. It doesn't mean they gave me the attention I wanted, but still, it meant you could get your movie out there in the world, and that's great.
That's absolutely brilliant. So, how long did that process actually take from sort of writing, getting it made, getting it out there? Was that a couple of years or longer than that?
It was 4 years.
Wow.
So from I think it might be 6 when I had the initial ideas, but they just sat here in my loft in a notepad somewhere. Sadly, I can't find this notepad. This notepad had a load of ideas that I was just waking up in the middle of the night, I'd scribble an idea. And there was loads of them in there. And like when I introduced sort of myself, that was the moment when I went, I need to find my own project. So I looked through this notepad again, And in there was 4 people trapped in a basement. We don't know why they're there. And another one further down was there's a kid and he's with an old man in a farmhouse and we don't know why they're there. They're clearly not related. And suddenly something clicked and I went, why don't I just connect it up? And within 30 minutes, I'd had the whole idea mapped out in my head, how they're connected, why this is happening, why they were there. And I went, this is amazing. Right. I need to write this. And then I brought on my co-writer, Johnny Grant, to write it with me, just because like I say, I love collaborating. It's more fun for me as a writer to do that than I struggle sometimes on my own. I get to page 70 and go, okay, what happens now? I kind of know what happens, but suddenly I'm on 300 pages and I haven't really got to the end. And I've changed my technique now, but that was how I used to do it. And it was a struggle. So yeah, bringing Johnny on, suddenly it was then we wrote it very quickly. Within a month after I got the treatment and asked Johnny to come and write it with me, a month later, we had the first draft and it was a solid first draft. We did some tweaks, sent it out, and then we got all that interest. And then over the next 3 years, we rewrote all the time. We never stopped rewriting, ever. I remember calling Johnny up. He was on his honeymoon in Disneyland. And I went, we need to rewrite this now because the distributors are wanting this, the execs are wanting this. And he went, mate, all right. So yeah, he rewrote some of the Dare, if you can imagine, because it's horrific, in Disneyland, which is really fun. So yeah, and then after we'd got our first edit of the movie, then there was all the changes we needed to make and do pickups and change the end. But my actors weren't free now. They're all suddenly gone really big, Bart's on The Witcher, Richard Brake's doing massive stuff, Richard Short's got the lead in Mary Kills People, and suddenly you're going, Robert Masters in 1917 and got this new massive thing, Tribes of Europa, and suddenly it was all, oh gosh, right, we can't get them all back at the same time. And Bart had cut all his hair off and he had this big, you've seen it, he's got all the, so we had to get a wig for him. But anyway, and the studio wasn't free because the new, was it the new, Rambo was shooting there, and I think another Antonio Banderas movie. So we just didn't have, they were like, yeah, okay, well, suddenly years rolled by and it was like, why aren't we shooting this movie? I also recast the kids as well. So it took, it was a really horrible 2.5 years really, while you're going, hey, I've made a movie, but you can't see it yet and we haven't finished it yet. It felt horrible. It felt like there was a piece of me missing. So now to have the film out, interestingly, my second movie came out before that one. So my debut movie actually came out before my second movie, but that's, sometimes that's how it works.
Wow. So your second movie, Giles, is that Arthur and Merlin? Or was
that's my second fiction movie, yes, and the second one I directed. But between that, I directed a documentary called World of Darkness, which came out, a feature, and I produced a Serial Killer's Guide to Life, which did really super well, and it's on Sky Movies and HBO in America, and that was made for zero budget. That was literally helping out a friend, and suddenly it became this, Fright Fest, Biffa nominated. Thanks, Elliot, and we, it did really well, and that was great. So
fantastic. So I think if you don't mind talking about Arthur and Merlin first, that would be amazing.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, again, I watched that and I loved it. It's so different. It's epic. It's magical. The sort of the lighting and everything is brilliant. The settings, the photography, it's wonderful. But it's almost like something epic to me.
Thank you. That sounds so nice to hear. I've kind of, when you spend a long time with these movies, sometimes you kind of bury them. You've done it, you did it, you went through the trenches, and literally on Arthur and Merlin, it was through the trenches. It was a tough old shoot. We were shooting in Wales. It rained every day in November. What do you expect? But when you're there with your knights and swords, and you've got to G everyone up, let alone yourself, and you're struggling, you're up against it, and you don't really have the budgets to do what you really want to do with it. And what we decided to do was shoot everything natural light. So we've only used a light once in that whole movie. Everything else was done through candlelight or through natural light, just because we knew we didn't have the crew for the setup, for one. We didn't have time, which is another, and we're shooting in the woods or on the top of a mountain or top of a hill. So you kind of go, okay, how do we shoot this the best possible way? My brilliant cinematographer, Andrew Roger, he shot the Dare with me, and we shot loads of other promos and bits and pieces together, and we'll be working on other things together. We just decided that was the best way to go on it. but yeah, I got that because of the Dare. Really, the Dare hadn't come out, but I remember having to pitch to Signature Entertainment, who distribute the movie, and well, they made the movie. Really, it's their funding, and they said, "Well, Giles, we're really interested in you for Mary Queen of Scots, which is a movie they did before." And I pitched for that, and it was going to happen. And then the other Mary Queen of Scots came out, and yeah, it just all sort of fell apart. And then we were doing another Arthur movie, and this, don't forget, this is all the time. This is years. And then suddenly Arthur and Merlin came around again. That had already come and disappeared, and then it came again, and I just pitched for it. I did a proper deck, how I'm going to shoot this movie, how I'm going to make it look, what I want to do to the script to enhance it, to give it a little bit more zhuzh that it needed, I felt, especially on the budget we had as well, to sort of, think about how we could shoot things. And for me, that's really important as a director / screenwriter, is to think about how you actually can shoot this movie. Because it's all good and well saying, okay, and then a load of horses charge this way, there's swords flying and there's blood, and you go, okay, well, we can't afford horses for more than one day, so we've got to think about when those horses come in. We've only got 8 swords, but we've got 16 knights. How do we work that out? It's all those games that you've got to play and work out during the budgeting stage when you're doing the rewrite stage. So that was quite tough, but I'm really pleased with how it came out. But there's so many things now looking at it I'd love to do differently. There's so many things that you look at and go, okay, well, that was how it was. But it was an amazing, I'm over the moon to be making movies. I'm over the moon to have made a movie like that. It was my dream since I was a little boy, to make a movie in a castle, or to act in a movie in a castle, run around with a sword. And I think because I'd acted for years and been in some, like I say, big enough movies to know some big enough actors, therefore I could invite them to come and play for no money, and that was the difference. Suddenly I could get people who could really deliver, just to say, look, come and work with me, come and have some fun. I'm not going to let you down. I'll look after you. And I think that's how you've got to treat everyone on your sets is, look, I'll look after you. Come and help me. I won't, I'm going to treat you well. But yeah, it's a joy to make a movie. It's just really hard. Really hard.
I mean, to be honest, it does look like they were having fun. I know that sounds slightly odd, but I see so many movies where you can tell that people are just, acting and not necessarily part of a team that connects and works well together. But you could feel, I think, that, people were connected.
Yeah, I think there's friends for life there. There's no question about it. For me, as well as the cast and crew, the cast, they're going to get on really well. They're sitting in damp clothes that they have to put on the next day. I remember I was drying King Arthur's outfit in where I was staying on the radiators, and I had to have the radiators turned up full blast. So obviously I'm not sleeping well. The stink that's coming off this old fake leather is just vile anyway. So you wake it up in the morning going, oh my God, I've got to take, but it's dry now. So you're all right to wear it. But that was because I wanted to get Arthur in the waterfall, which was the coldest lake in the UK. I didn't want to tell him that. I said, please no one tell him and Lady of the Lake that it's the coldest bit of water in the UK. Please. Well, it's in Wales, so please don't. And someone did. And anyway, he did get in, and the Lady of the Lake, and they were amazing. But I said, the costume department said, look, I don't want to do this because it's going to ruin the costume. He's got to take it off before he goes in. I said, there's no way he would take it off as a character choice. Why would he do that if he saw Guinevere in the way? He's not going to go, oh, I'll come and rescue you. Just a minute. It's not very heroic, is it? So I said, look, if I do this, I will dry his clothes on my radiator tonight. Oh my gosh. But that's what you do when you're making independent movies. You all chip in and you go, look, this is what we have to do to get this made, and so that we can get the shots we need. But it like I say, it's tough when it's raining every day and you're soaked and you haven't got dry clothes or shoes and you're soaked through, and you've got to get the shots, and people are getting grumpy because they're whacking swords against each other, and they've got to get emotional, and they've got to cry, and they've got to die, and you've got to have blood, and it's absolutely chucking it down with rain. You really have to be able to motivate people, and you can't go into a slump yourself. You can't go, okay, fine, I'm not going to do this. You've got to keep up, and you've got to keep motivated for everyone else, and that's sometimes really tough. But it's your name on it. At the end of the day, it's your film.
Absolutely.
Well, it's everyone else's film, of course. It's not my film. Everyone's, chipping in. I couldn't make it without anyone else. But people, your name gets the one that's mentioned in reviews. You're the one that's going to get the crap for it. So you've got to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. No, it's fantastic. It's Fantastic. And moving on to The Stranger in Our Bed, which I'm
Yes.
intrigued about. And I know that we actually have the writer here
Oh,
tonight.
is Sam here? Oh, wonderful.
Sam is
Wonderful.
here.
Excellent.
So, I mean, you know, that is just amazing. It's a US best-selling novel. How did you find it? How did you choose it? I mean, what sort of drew you to it?
Well, I wish I had found it, but luckily for me, it was brilliant producers Terry Dwyer and Dean Fisher. I think Terry had read it. I think I think it might have been this time last year. I don't know whether she was on holiday, but she read it, loved it, and asked Sam if she could option it. And then she brought Dean on, and then eventually they asked me if I would be interested in pitching for it. And again, I did. I pitched for it, and I said, look, this is what I'd like to do with this movie, how I'd see it, how I'd like to shoot it. And luckily they picked me. And I love it. We've literally handed in the director's cut to the producers who have watched it, and they like it a lot. We now have some pickups to do. We've got a day's pickups, which is great, and then we're on to grade and sound mix. So it's a really good place to be. But that was a great shoot. It was we were in a mansion house. It hardly rained. I think, to be fair, I think the only day we were outside, we had to do a big grave scene. It's not a spoiler as such, but there's this big grave scene, and we were allowed to dig a hole in this mansion, this place in Oxford, you know, in their gardens, their grounds. And we thought, well, as long as it doesn't rain, we're not going to ruin the grass around. Obviously it rained that night, the night before, and absolutely ruined the grass. And now we've dug this grave, which has now got water all over it. And you've got a lot of crew and you're moving around this area, it's just going to get very muddy. So it's very slippy, it's very dangerous. But that was the only day it rained. It was the day we needed this big thing outside. It's almost a night shoot, but that was a wonderful shoot, you know, because it was COVID as well. We had to have less crew. And again, I say less crew than normal. It was a bigger crew than Arthur and Merlin, and I had an amazing team, but we could have done with an extra gaffer at times. We could have done with an extra, you know, whatever, PA. We just needed a couple more pair of hands, but everyone chipped in. Even Sam, when she was there, they all chipped in, and that was just amazing. You know, COVID tests every week. Everyone's in a bubble. Everyone's safe. Yeah. And that meant it was a real tribe. It was a real collection of people, and it was a real wonderful experience to shoot it. And I'm very proud of it. I can't wait for people to see it. Actually, I think it's an excellent thriller, and Sam had written an amazing script, and we really went for it. And the actors were just a delight. You know, we had Samantha Bond from Downton Abbey and obviously all the James Bond films, and Emily Berrington and Ben Lloyd Hughes and Joseph Marcel, and this cast just goes on, and you're just like, okay, this could be a little winner, you know. So I'm very pleased, very happy.
Fantastic. So Sam, you're in the room. Do you want to say anything about, you know, your experience of this? I mean, I'm assuming it was really exciting.
Hi guys.
Hey Sam.
Hello darling, how are you, Giles?
I'm good, thank you. Lovely to see you.
So lovely listening to you and the enthusiasm with which we've watched the day, and we loved it as well, and I loved Arthur and Merlin as well. And I'm just so thrilled to have you. There you go, my husband's put the light on because it was very dark. I don't know whether I really want to be seeing that well. But yeah, we're so delighted to have you as the director for this, because you know your vision is beautiful, and but honestly, just being on the set for a few days and seeing some of the footage and being there, and Giles was so wonderfully generous in sharing what was happening. And I remember one moment which really delighted me when he came looking for me going, "You've got to come and see this." And I was like, I was trying so hard to be out of the way and not get on his nerves, you know, because writers can be really annoying, I believe, on sets, and I'm not that kind of person, so I was like really scared of being annoying. And he came and got me, and he says, come and see this. And I was like, oh, he wants me to come and watch. I'm so excited. It was wonderful. It was so wonderful. Lovely.
Yeah, that was great. We really got to play. It's a great
moment.
It was, we got to play with some toys, you know, on that film, you know, track and dolly a lot. We really worked hard to make a thriller really nice, and to have Sam on set sometimes was just like, because you weren't there all the time, mainly because
no, just a few days.
Yeah, a few days, but it's great to have the writer there just to bounce ideas off sometimes, and just to go, look, here's your vision, look what you came up with, and look at it there on the monitors is a delight. Seeing actors say the lines, and it's an incredible feeling.
To be honest, it was a total delight for me, because I could see that all of the discussions we'd had and everything was just being realised, and just so beautifully. And you know, just I was watching it going, yes, these people really are my characters, and now I see everyone as the characters now in the book. I don't see them as anyone else now, which is really weird. But Giles is just an amazing director, and you know, just I can't wait to see the cuts. I mean, I'm scared to, but I know I'm going to love it, because I know you're going to do a great job. No
it's
pressure,
always frightening. Yeah, no pressure, none at all. But it is frightening. I know totally what you mean. It's frightening to see it, but it's also a joy. So yeah,
it'll be amazing. I know it will.
And what was great as well, Sam, just so you know, I don't know if you know this, but we only dropped one scene out of the whole script, and that's.
I remember. It was incredible.
It's unheard of, really. I mean, the amount we dropped on Arthur, the day, you just like, you can't time. And on this, we shot every single, which is a testament to us to getting on with it. But also, the shot was only one simple shot as well, with our lead just sat in the bath. So it's not massive, but at the same time, I really wanted to shoot it, but we just couldn't. It ran out of time on that day. We'd got a location in Wimbledon, and they were like, you have to be a hard out of 5:30. And to get the lead actress wet, get her in the bath, get her dry, and get her out. We'd already done shower scenes that day. It was like, it was a cry moment.
You know, these things happen, and you know, and I mean, I was just very sort of circumspect about what would happen. I couldn't believe you'd got so much done in the time that you had. And even I know, I mean, I feel really privileged as the writer that the film even happened, because the way it happened and as quick as it happened is really just totally unheard of. And I mean, even you saying about the dare, how long you had to work on that. I mean, this is normally with a book, you get an option, and then it's years and years and years, and you're really lucky if you're the writer, if you get a chance to write the script. But honestly, the feedback and the collaboration that you and I did was just, I think it was just amazing. And obviously I couldn't have done it without you, because you're amazing.
Well, it was great to collaborate with you on the script. It really was, because I just really enjoyed that. And I don't know how many screenwriters are in the room, but I imagine pretty much all of you. But I imagine that, you know, for me, it was great to work with you on it, and really
me too.
To go through what you've done and go, okay, well, me having my filmmaking brain on it and going, okay, well, then I need transition from there to there, or this needs to connect to that, you know, and let's think about it as a film. And that was fascinating. It was really, really interesting.
It was a massive learning curve for me as well, you know, because I mean, I collaborate all the time as a novelist, but, you know, screenwriting, I'd only done one other thing before, but this was just a massive learning curve. And I love the collaboration, because I think that working with other people brings the best out of you. You know, not a lot of people believe that, but it really does. It brings you, helps you, you know, raise your game.
Ideas as well. You know, you bounce off the ideas they have, and vice versa. It's amazing. But it's also incredible. I mean, it's really inspirational, I think, for people here, because, you know, we hear so much when we go to panels about, oh, you know, as you just said, Sam, books getting optioned and then dropped and then taking years and blah, blah, blah. So it's really exciting, I think, for people here to hear about, you know, how quickly this happened, how great the collaboration is. Hats off to you. It's amazing.
I feel like I've been spoiled, and this will never be as good again. In every sense.
I hope it is for you.
I'll never have as good a production company.
To be fair, you were, you know, me aside from that, you were spoiled, you know, in terms of it has been amazing. The fact that quick turnaround, Terry and Dean, amazing producers. They got you what you want, and you know, we got the amazing cast we did. Actually, if you expect this every time, good luck. I hope it does for you, but you know,
when do we get to see it? When's it coming out?
I'll send you a link tonight. I don't know. We're getting lots of offers from distribution sales companies, but the best thing ever to do with a film is never give it too early, never give it before it's ready. I know so many filmmakers have made this mistake in the past. They get excited because CAA want to look at it, or Paradigm, or Lionsgate. They're all good. They're knocking on the door right now going, hey, can we see it? Can we see it? Please let us see it. Because the reason they want to do that is so they can be first, and therefore they can grab it, which doesn't help you because you could do a bidding war later. And also what really doesn't help you is it's not finished. They see a not finished film, they won't watch it again. It's like giving your script to someone before it's finished. So if you gave your script to me before it's finished, I'm going, well, I'm not going to read it again, am I? So it's too much effort for a filmmaker, for a distributor to look at something twice. So when you send anything, make it the best you can possibly make it, and that goes for a finished film as well. So basically what I mean by that is we're going to finish it off fully, get all the credits in, get all the titles, get all the sound mix and score done, which won't be long. And then we're going to take it to market. So we'll be at probably Cannes, maybe. We might be just too early for Cannes, but there'll be a trailer, which is July now, Cannes. So there will be a trailer, and we've got the poster ready as well. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Sam. Have you seen the poster? Terry shared it with you?
I have. It's all hush hush. I'm not sharing it anywhere. But they're amazing. I will say I'm very happy.
That's great.
Yeah.
And obviously distributors and sales will bring their own. They'll go, we want to design the poster differently anyway. Totally fine. They know the markets, but this is a teaser for us. And yeah, so hopefully how the markets work as well is once they do take it on, let's say we do sell it in Cannes, or we do sell it in AFM, November that late, then they've got to slot it into their schedules as well. So unless we get picked up by Netflix or whatever, but they're still going to put it into their schedule or make it a Sky original. It's still further down the line because they've already programmed for the next 6 months. So, you're looking at next year. So you never know, it might be Christmas, but realistically, unless we do a self-distribution route, it's probably next year. But still very exciting.
Very exciting. And thank you, Sam, as well for sharing.
You're
and you could come tonight as well. So
no problem. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So Giles, I'm going to move on to your documentaries, if I may.
Of course, yeah.
So I watched The World of Darkness, and I have to confess, a bit like horror, it wasn't my bag. I looked at the trailer and I thought, looks intriguing, but not the kind of thing I'm interested in, apart from when I maybe read Dungeons and Dragons as a kid.
Sure.
Anyway, I am not joking. Again, I was totally hooked, literally didn't look away from the TV until it had finished. I mean, it's absolutely, you're just such a good storyteller, because again, all the way through, it had such a good storyline, and it was so there was so much information in there, but also so many layers as well. And I think that's, it's quite a skill, because so often with documentaries, people are passionate about things, but it just doesn't necessarily always translate onto screen. So I was blown away by it. I'm intrigued why The World of Darkness. I mean, is there a story behind that, or was it just something where you thought, gosh, this has to get out to the world?
There is a story behind it, and it wasn't something that I thought I need to get this out into the world. I worked for this Swedish production company. I'd made some adverts for them. I'd made some promos. I'd made a long form bank feature film. By that, it's a feature film that is only shown internally in banks, which we made in 4 days, which actually, it's actually really good. I mean, I got a load of my friend actors because there was budget, so I could pay them. And suddenly we made this feature. It's a lot of interviews, but at the same time, there's a lot of action going on around it. Anyway, so I'd made these for this Swedish company, and they called me up and they said, listen, we really like what you do. We've got this documentary. We've been asked to make it. We know nothing about the World of Darkness. Do you? Now, for those who don't know, The World of Darkness is a role-playing game similar to Dungeons and Dragons, which is mainly set around vampires. Vampire the Masquerade was the first one they did, and it's mages and it's werewolves. It's that world. It's dice, and it moved on to LARPing and role-playing. I knew nothing about it. Absolutely zero. I hadn't even played Dungeons and Dragons. They said, perfect. That's why we think you're right for this, because we want an outside perspective on this world. I went, great. for me, it was a joy. You know, they're going to pay me to make a feature documentary that I know nothing about. Happy days. I was like, okay, let's do this. And then I started to learn about this world and learn about the people who inhabit it. And these people are fantastic, wonderful people, but they are different. You know, they love to dress it. They put fangs in, you know, they look like real fangs. They dress up in this, you know, they become a different character. So people who might have been abused or bullied or just fancy being a different person from themselves can suddenly open up and be the leader of a kingdom, and they'll act it out, and they'll have minions, and it's literally, you have to work your way up in this world. And I thought this is fascinating. So I got to travel around the world. We went to Sweden, obviously. We went to America, New York, LA. New York, in the snow came down as we landed in New York, and we drove straight to the camera hire company, picked up the cameras. It's still snowing. We went and filmed an interview. It was just like magic. And then we went to LA, and we went again. It was a real joy to do this job. And yeah, it was just wonderful to piece it together. I think what you have to learn from documentaries is it is about story, and you can sit and get great interviews, but it's not that interesting to look at. So you have to make sure you get B-roll and make sure you get enough story in there that it becomes something. So we shot a vampire story. I got some actors and I recreated this story throughout about this girl and this vampire, and just to have throughout the story. We ended up cutting a lot of it out, actually, because it became more about the company, and basically the fans sued the company, their own fans, and they sued their own fans. It's crazy stuff, really. But anyway, the World of Darkness basically inspired True Blood. It inspired Twilight, and they kind of say they never got any credit for it. And Blade totally ripped them off, but they did get some money in the end. So all these it inspired. Anyway, it was I really enjoyed it. I'm now making a documentary called Food for Thought, all about animal welfare and plant-based lifestyle and what's happening in the world right now. And we're 2 years in, and we were just about to finish before COVID, do a couple more interviews. We had some big people to interview, and COVID happened, and it's put us back a little bit, but we're about to finish that now, which is really exciting. So it's my second doc, and really passionate about this one. I decided to do this one.
I could tell that. I could see from trailers that I'd seen. I was like, that's definitely Giles's passion project.
Yes. I think as a filmmaker, I wanted to make a difference, and it's great to make horror films. It's great to make Arthur and Merlin, tales of sword fighting in the hills, but I think what was really interesting is to try and make a difference in things that I'm passionate about. And if we can change the world in any way through our films, great. And if that opens people's eyes to actually we are ruining our world a little bit here, maybe we should think about it more. Well, if I'm in a position to do that, I should do that. So myself and Dan Richardson said, let's do it. And and he's Born Free ambassador, so he's got some great ins. So we're really close to doing it. But documentaries are wonderful, but it's very hard to get a linear story. It's not, those of you who are thinking of doing that, it's very different to writing a screenplay, because you're just writing an idea down of, well, that'd be interesting, and this, we could go for the story this way, and it could go this way, and I'm trying to get that soundbite and that soundbite. And you might not get them, or it might not work, or it just doesn't look good. Whereas film, screenplay, well, it's so important to get the script right, to get the beats right, to get the connections within that whole film, so the end line pays off. So the end, when someone gives something to someone else, oh, that paid off because you mentioned it before. In a doc, you can't do that. It's just very different form of filmmaking, but it's one where I can tell my stories.
Well, I mean, from what I've seen, it's absolutely superb. And if anybody wants to see how a documentary should be made, then do watch World of Darkness. It's on Amazon in the UK.
Bless you. It's probably free. I imagine it's free. I imagine the problem is with indie film.
I think it is.
The problem is with indie films, people just stick them on YouTube. I never understand why someone would decide, someone's hard work and effort, I know, I'm going to stick this on my YouTube channel. I just still don't get it. We then have to spend all our time trying to take them down because people are just watching it in usually bad quality. They've recorded it in bad quality. It's probably not the right size, and it's infuriating. Anyway, so yes, The Dare is free on Amazon Prime now, and I think I'm not sure if that's in the right format either. That was an issue with the distributors, but anyway, yeah, it can always happen. There was a sound problem on the iTunes one. It's infuriating, but sometimes there's not much you can do. It's just you're grateful to get them out there.
Yeah, no, I'm blown away. Like I said, I'm kind of a bit sort of starstruck, and still am.
Bless you. Don't need to be. It's just me.
On film financing, I saw that for Food for Thought, you've done some crowdfunding on that. Is that generally what you do for each of the films, unless you've got big money backing? How do you or do you build up sort of different types of financing from different sources?
Yeah, there's so many different ways financing exists. You can find financing anywhere, and every journey is different. But I think there's 7 forms of finance, and if I could remember them all off the top of my head now, I'd give you them. Okay, so the first one is your own money. You can go shoot this for nothing, shoot this for whatever money you've got in your pocket, and you can shoot that way. We've done it before, and we've made feature films that way. It can happen. The other one is crowdfunding, and you can raise, you know, with our doc, we raised a really nice amount of money with A Serial Killer's Guide to Life. We pretty much funded it all on there. I think we raised 24 grand on A Serial Killer's Guide to Life, and then we topped it up with a bit more. Well, Staten and Poppy did. And then yes, there's crowdfunding. What else is there? There's BFI. There's similar routes like that. So that's your third one. What's your fourth one? A high net worth individual. So that is someone with a ton of money who says, it doesn't matter if I lose this. They're your best friends. And to be honest, they're probably not your best friends, but they might be the best friend of your best friends. So if you know someone who's got some money, if you know someone who might, you know, go on the golf course occasionally, you know, they're going to hang around with people potentially with a bit of money that they don't mind losing 30, 50 grand. You know, and don't forget, filmmaking is a huge risk, and you've got to say, you're probably going to lose this money, and you should be very honest about that. But if you want to come on this journey, next time you're on the golf course, you can say, I'm exec producer of a feature film that stars someone who was on EastEnders or Game of Thrones or whatever. That's a cool thing. So they basically never ask, my rule is, you never ask an investor or potential high net worth investor, HNI, for money directly. You ask them if they know somebody who has any money. Now, suddenly what that does, it takes the pressure off them going, oh, well, no, I don't know. And suddenly you lose the friendship. What it does is it puts you on an even keel, and it makes them feel, oh yeah, do you know what I do? And next time they're having a chat in their business meeting or whatever, someone goes, oh, I need to invest some money in something again. Whether those conversations just randomly happen like that, or they might be talking about they've just invested in a sofa company or in the Bitcoin or whatever. They say, well, actually, would you be interested in a film? Suddenly now you've got your high net worth individual investor looking for place to be. Now suddenly that investor of their friend says, well, great, all right, yeah, I do fancy that, but you're in, right, aren't you? Suddenly now that person, that high net worth individual you first met, now goes, yeah, I really should be in now, shouldn't I? Suddenly now you doubled your budget. And again, you should always know what your budgets are and look at all your waterfalls and know exactly how much money should be spent where before you go anywhere near this. And lawyers are very important, and your friends, and they can cost money. So that's your fourth one. And then, friends.
Oh, we're frozen.
That's that, but that is not. Oh no, am I back? Am I still frozen, or am I back? I'm back. Okay, cool. So friends one, I wouldn't do that. And then I think the final one, oh no, there's 2 more, isn't there? Studio money is the other big one, where you can go direct to a studio, which I got lucky to do twice. And the final one is producer. Is find a producer who has connections. And then within all that, I think those 7, they're my 7 that I've written down that are actually mean something. There is permutations of every single one of those. So you could have some personal finance mixed with crowdfunding, mixed with studio money. You could have a producer mixed with crowdfunding. They're all ways to raise finance. I've done every way except, well, I've definitely put my own money in, but I really haven't put friends. I haven't done a friends one, and I'm glad. That would just be horrible. But when anyone says, I want to make a movie, but then they're not making it, I always go, what's your excuse? I don't get it. Why aren't you at least trying? Go make a crowdfunder, then, you know, at least raise $1,000. You can then shoot a teaser, do something. So there's definitely avenues to raise money or find people. Yeah,
that's super helpful. Thank you for that. And just before I let other people ask you questions, because I'm sure they're dying to, got to mention the Filmmakers Podcast. So I am hooked. I know 200 more to go, more than that, but he doesn't have many. But I love what you've created with that. I love how, you're talking to people who have done, really significant films, and you have this way of bringing it down to earth and feeling as if it's accessible to us normal people. And there's one quote in there that I love, and you've mentioned it a few times in the ones I've listened to, which is, when you get to the top, just remember to send the elevator back down. I absolutely love that. I think it's
it's my sign off on every show. I love doing the podcast. To be honest, I originally set it up to talk about what we were doing and to talk about our movies and a bit of advertising and stuff. And straight away I realized that was not wrong, but just not the right way to go. And so it instantly opened up by talking to other filmmakers that it became a platform where we could share filmmaking stories and talk about their films that they had that were released. Or if it's Mark Strong, you talk about his career. Timothy Spall, you talk about the career, but sometimes they've also got a film to promote. Now we get PR companies all the time saying, hey, can you have so and so on, Klaus Bang, can they talk about the film? And you now have to turn people away, which is an incredible place to be. But it started out just as some friends, me going, hey guys, do you want to run this with me? Do you want to host with me? And now it's developed into this sort of big thing that now I think he just asked me if I'm in the chat, you're doing a book. Yes, I am. We're doing a book on the quotes and the information I've learnt from the podcast and the guests, what they've said. The worst, the people who are inspiring. I've met brilliant producers, money people, and it's opened my door to so much more. Wherever you can find your podcast. But honestly, the guests we've had and the information you could learn, it'll take you years. It's nearly as good as Elliot's rain dance courses. We have so many people giving so much brilliant feedback about how to make films. And if you like that sort of thing, you like listening, then please do come and join the tribe. Come and join us.
And I have Alexa living with me, so I'm constantly saying, Alexa, play the Filmmakers Podcast.
I love that. That's so great.
But if you haven't got Alexa, how do you get hold of it?
Any podcast of your choice, Spotify, iTunes, wherever, like say, you can get podcasts, it's on there now. But we are on Twitter at Filmmakers Pod, Instagram, but go to the filmmakerspodcast.com and you'll have all the back catalogue. So if you're a screenwriter, you can just type in the search bar screenwriter and all the screenwriters will come up. Or if you just want the actors or you just want the producers, directors, whatever, a lot of them cross over, but they are there. We've had Christy Wilson Cairns on, who talks about making 1917, for God's sake. We've had Bohemian Rhapsody screenwriter. We've had David Kett, who wrote Jurassic Park. Incredible. It's blown my mind that I can sit with these incredible people. Matthew Modine's on this week. He's on now. We've just put it up a few days ago. It's great. It's wonderful for me to know these people now and go, hey, by the way, do you want to read my script? It works. It works.
Oh, well, thank you so much for doing that. And can't wait to just hear more of them. So before I rabbit on any more, does anybody have any questions? By all means, put your hand up or ask your question in the chat. Don't be shy. I'm sure there's lots of them.
Yeah, don't be shy. I won't bite. Not like a vampire.
It is quite scary, the world of darkness, but fascinating that people have those extraordinary lives.
Yeah, no, isn't it? Yeah, I'd acted in a few vampire films before as well, so I sort of got that world. Yeah, it's great. It's fascinating. It's wonderful. So many wonderful worlds. Tremaine, do I still act? No, not anymore. I don't need to. I don't mind. I get asked quite a bit just to want to do anything, and I'm not too fussed. I'm sure I'll do some more in the future, but there's so much going on with acting, producing, directing. I'm producing another movie in the summer now, which looks like it's all signed off, and that's a really decent budget, some decent cast, and we're now putting the final bits of the finance into closing. It's called closing that finance, and that's private investors or HNIs. And yeah, so no, I don't really have time for it. I don't enjoy auditioning anymore. It feels really you know, I love auditioning people and I make them feel as comfortable as possible because I understand what that feels like. But no, I don't get, I don't get too much. I'm not bothered about auditioning. If someone wants to offer me something, great, I'll come and do it. But yeah, it's a lot of, you have to really concentrate. You have to really learn the lines and go through that whole process. And I much prefer not to anymore. So thank you for that question.
So there's loads flooding in. Lucy Beresford asks, is there a different film genre that you long to try?
Thank you, Lucy. Good question. I am the feature I've just handed into some really great producers that I managed to get on board is a romantic comedy set around gay weddings. So it's a very different beast to all the other stuff I've done, and I've loved it. I brought on a friend of mine who was gay to write it with me, and suddenly it was based on actually me going to his wedding, and that's been wonderful to do. So yes, I love all film genre. I'd love to do a sci-fi. I love when they travel to the moon or The Martian. What a fantastic film that is. I'd love to make a movie like that, but it needs bigger budgets. It needs a bit more time and energy. And I found one script which I really like, and maybe we'll do that one day, but it's a long road, that one. So yes. Yeah, good. Feel free to speak, by the way, as well. Yeah.
I know Austin had one. Austin, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Hey, Jenny. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Hey, Giles.
Hey, Austin.
Hey, man. My question is, bit of a weird one. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in filmmaking that you've learned from?
It's a good question. I think the mistake was to work with the wrong people, and I was too scared to let the wrong people go. I'd worked with the wrong people for too long, and I think that's why it took first feature, or to make a feature, was that I was hanging on to other people's coattails rather than doing it myself. As soon as we sort of broke free, it was like this, and it's easily done. And I highly recommend to do contracts with people, even if it's on a piece of paper, that in a court of law holds up. If you say, Giles and Austin are writing a script together based on this, that holds up. It means you're writing that script together. It means they can't take it off you. It is a chain of title. I mean, yeah, you want to do it properly, of course, but that does hold up in a court of law.
I remember Tony saying about, even if you send a WhatsApp to somebody, that's a kind of like a legally binding thing as well sometimes.
Absolutely. If they've responded to that saying, yes, it is legally binding. So just do that. I'd suggest do that, but never be afraid to say, this ain't working anymore. It's hard because you spent so long on it, and who owns it, who owns the rights, all this. But if it's not working, if it's dragging you down, they're dragging you down, and you really want to fly, and they're going, oh no, let's do, no, I'm not sure. Move on. You haven't got enough time in this world to be hanging around people who are negative or not positive about the project you're doing. You've got to get up and go all the time. And if people are dragging you down, do that. And I took too long. I wasn't confident enough to know what I'm doing. And to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. That's also another reason why I didn't get stuff made. It's taken me a long time to understand it. And I still don't now. So I'm still learning every day, and I hope I always will. So yeah, that was a huge mistake, was that. So I'd suggest, if anyone's struggling, move on.
Cool. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Pleasure, Austin.
There's an interesting one from John Sheldon here, Giles. What are the best ways in documentary making to help subjects relax, to get the fly on the wall effect?
Yeah, I like this question. It's really important to get them relaxed. Maybe you can tell by the way I can talk to people and make them kind of relaxed, especially kids on a film set or people who are coming in for a day. Day players, as the actors in the room know, is really daunting. It's really difficult. Everyone's laughing, they know each other, they're having fun, and you're going, oh God, yeah, that's really funny. And you suddenly feel this real pressure to perform. So I really try as much as I can to go straight over as soon as they arrive and go, hey, I'm so happy you're here, and talk to them, especially with the kids as well. Really make sure it's their show. But for documentary stuff, I film from the off. I don't wait around. As soon as they're in the room, I'm turning that camera over. They're now not worried about saying the right thing at that point, because you're never going to use it all. But what they do is you just go, yeah, no, we're just chatting, mate. This is just us having fun. So I try and relax them that way. If they're not happy with that, or you've difficult, I talk about what you're going to talk about. This is what we're going to ask you, nice and relaxed. If there's ever a problem, if you ever stumble, don't worry. Just say it again. We can cut around any problems. This is your time. If you want to say it again, you want that cut out, We do it. Same with the podcast, actually. And as soon as people do that, they relax and go, oh, that's great. I don't have to worry, because if I say something I don't like, they're going to cut it out. He's told me, and he said it on camera, so I've got proof. So as soon as you do that, that's my advice.
That's very good advice. Thank you. So Randall's got an interesting question. So for those of us who are interested in writing, how important do you think it is to understand the rest of the filmmaking process, like taking courses and that kind of thing?
Rain dance classes. I wouldn't say it's vital, but I would say it will make you a better writer. If you've held a boom on a short film for a mate, you understand a lot more about what worked, what didn't. If you've learned to edit, you will be a 10 times better writer, maybe 100, because you sat in the edit room and go, oh God, yeah, there was no connection between that bit. And oh God, that performance there didn't work. And again, it's really hard to spend your time doing that. And I'm not suggesting you do that, but if you have, and the question is, should you? Yes, do rain dance courses, learn, pick up a camera now, go out with your iPhone, shoot it, put it into whatever movie magic and cut it together. And you go, oh, right. Okay, practice. As screenwriters and filmmakers, we should be practicing all the time. We hardly ever get to be on set. We hardly ever get our words heard out loud. Get actors in a room now on a Zoom call and go, can you just read this scene for me? Can you loads of people will do it. You put it out on Facebook and everyone will put their hand and go, yeah, I'll read. So it's just about being proactive and being brave. Never worry about someone stealing your work massively either. I know it's important to think about it, but we can hold on to stuff too much. If someone really likes your idea or the effort they've got, you know how hard it is to write a script. They've then got to go write that and then try and get it somewhere. And hey, it does happen, but I wouldn't let that hold you back. And I don't mean go shout it to the world, but if you're going to do a room with actors, it's not a problem. Or if you're going to go shoot it and just put it on Facebook and goes, anyone like this? What do they think? Does the dialogue work? Tell you what, people will help you, and people are so afraid of that, but people are so willing to help. And then suddenly someone might see that and go, I love this. Oh my God, do you want me to help make it with you? So it's just putting yourself out there. The more you can do that, the more you can meet people at rain dance classes. I do a Make Your Film event as well, and we do networking events as part of the podcast. And at the moment, we're not, obviously. But there's perfect time to meet people and say hello and what do you do? And it's hard, I know. Screenwriters, it's, you can be insular and it can be difficult to say hello to people. But at Elliot's events and my events, people are very, Elliot makes a point of this, say hello to everyone, and suddenly you're talking, and the same online. Yeah. So I think the more you can learn about the filmmaking business, the better screenwriter you'll be, and you won't get burnt badly. Yeah. Because you can get burnt, you know. Like I say, it happened to me, and it's horrible. And it really hurt. It took me a long time to recover, and I was really upset for a long time. And suddenly, this project I'd been working on so hard for 2 years was just ripped away from me like that. Investors I'd found, producer I'd found, just went behind my back, and you just go, wow. And again, it was because I wasn't confident. I wasn't doing the job right. I wasn't pushing forward, making those things happen. I was letting other people do it, and I'd never let that happen again.
No, sometimes we have to have these learnings, don't we? Even though they might be painful at the time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
There's another interesting one from Larry. What's your process for crafting the story in documentary?
You have to know the story inside out. So with World of Darkness, we knew the linear structure of it. So we knew what the beginning was going to be, like the creation of World of Darkness, how it happened. We knew what the end was going to be, the total, if I could swear, the end of it all, and what happened, and maybe the little bit of hope at the end. So we knew that. So then it was just piecing in, okay, well, let's do it year by year. Let's do it that way. Or why don't we do it the art department side of it first, or let's do the computer side, So it's just working out what works for your story. And then in the edit room, everything changes, because then you can redo with a documentary whatever you want. You can start with the end, you can start at the middle, you can start whatever you like. It's yours, and it's whatever works best for the story. With Food for Thought, we just wanted to tell the story about, the environment and the world. So we've done again in sections, but we're traveling all over it and just working out what works best in the edit. So it's just having a structure. It's very important. Same as screenwriting. Yeah. Fiction.
Are you okay for one more question, or do you need to?
Cool. Yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah, this is a good one from Swati here. What's the most important thing to keep in mind when you're moving from shorts to a feature? And should you have a sales distribution strategy chalked out before you complete the film?
Yes. You should definitely always be thinking about who your audience is, and that includes sales and distribution, whether that's yourself distributing it yourself, which these days is a much better way to go, because if you do sell it to a sales and distribution person, very unlikely you're going to see anything back. That's how, well, you have to know the ins and outs of those contracts. I've learned to do that, but to know cross collateralization or sales expenses, you've got to know all these terms and technology and understand that contracts. If you don't, they're gonna pull the wool over your eyes. It's even been done to us when we knew all that stuff as well. So it can be done. So self-distribution these days is a better way to go. You can put your film to your audience. And the best type of film you should be making now is niche films. You know, don't try and write a big sci-fi. For one, you might get an agent out of it, maybe, but that's films very unlikely going to be made. Write something, you know. If you like BMXing, write a brilliant film about BMXing. It's a niche market. Write about the vegan chef, you know, write about I don't know, the fan maker of, you know, someone who loves fans, or World of Darkness fans. You know, it's this niche market. Skateboarding, ballet dancing, these are really niche, and therefore you can sell to a market. Dance movies, they're great. You can sell dance movies all around the world. You can go around schools with a dance movie. You can go to dance schools. But if you're just making a normal horror, you make it, you've now got to find a great sales agent. You've now got, you know, it's harder. So really think about the film you're making or want to write first. But then when you've done that, think about your route to market. Who would want to see this movie? So if, like, say, if it's niche, well, great. You've got an inbuilt audience. Me and Dan with Food for Thought, we've got an inbuilt audience. We've already got an audience who want to see a film about environment and plant-based eating and maybe going vegan. It's there. There's an audience ready. So we know we've got that already, and especially with Dan's movement. So you do have to think about that. So the more you could think about your sales and distribution, the better. Look at what films they've made. So go through all the distribution lists and salespeople. Again, if you can go direct to a distributor, even better. You can cut out the middleman. But again, you've got to know what you're talking about. But if it's a sales or distributor, understand what they're selling. There's no point in going to a distributor who only does romantic comedies and you're doing a horror. And target them. Say from the off, I'm thinking about this film. Who should I get in it? Write to them. They'll write back. I mean, they probably will. You know, again, they're busy people. But if you're saying, hey, I'm thinking about making this film, I'd love you to think, you've got nothing to lose. At least you're on their radar. So yes, it's really important. And the question going from shorts to features, yes, you can make a short, turn it into a feature. I know so many people have done this. And you can shoot that short with the idea that continues into a feature. So you shoot it brilliantly, shoot with the actors you have in mind. Suddenly now you've got a great short. You can put it in festivals if you want, but then you could turn that into a feature. You've already shot 10 minutes of it. Now you just need to do it over weekends and get the feature done. Now you've made a feature film. Now it's much easier to get another one made. I say easier, it's easier. Once you've made a movie, people are actually interested in you making another one, even if it is crap. That's the truth. It's the truth, because we know you've been through the trenches. You've understood route to market. You've understood deliverables. You've understood how you can sell a movie, even if it's you putting it on Amazon. You've understood how to do that. That's not easy. And therefore we go, okay, well, this person has directed actors and they have made this movie for however many weeks and put it together. So yeah, the more you can go out and make a film, and if it's short to feature, yeah, the better.
Fantastic. So there are more questions, Giles, but I'm conscious that we've gone over time.
We're all right if everyone's happy. Yeah, I've got another 5-10 minutes.
Thank you. So there was one from Christopher Lewis. So if we go to Christopher first and then Carolina afterwards.
Hey, Giles.
Hey, how you doing, Christopher?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. We're growing the beard. We're growing the third lockdown beard.
Got the lockdown hair going on as well.
No,
this is a nightmare.
Not much we can do.
I had a question about writing. I don't really have any real contacts in terms of, I'm kind of writing in isolation, but what you were saying earlier kind of struck a chord in terms of, you know, if I have an idea and I'm kind of turning it in my head, I get a friend on the phone who might not be a writer, but just someone who's happy to have me rant at them for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they throw out ideas and they shoot down bad ones and suggest better ones. And, you know, like you said, it's really helpful to be able to bounce ideas around. My I'm quite mindful of the fact I don't really have a lot of writers in my life. I have friends who are happy for me to chew their ear off. So in terms of finding collaborators, and not just any collaborator, but finding someone who is passionate about your project, and you're writing in the same genre or the same style. How did you go about finding people that you knew you could work with?
I think, well, like I said, at first I did write by myself, and I found it really tough. I did, but I think I was lucky because I'd acted for 10, 15 years or whatever, 20 years. I built up enough people, and I got to the point where I'd made enough really good shorts that people were sending me scripts. So therefore I could look at them, and having a production company on IMDb meant that anyone can find you and look you up and go, oh, I'm going to send you a script. I must be 3 or 4 emails from composers a day. I don't know why it's composers, but that's how it is. It's very random. And I will get screenwriters sending me stuff all the time. And that's how it started for me. And that's how I got Johnny Grant, who co-wrote The Dare with me, because he just sent me a cold email. Again, he'd gone on IMDb. He'd also sent it to Tom Cruise. Again, obviously it didn't get to Tom Cruise, but that's how naive he was at the time. I know, Tom. Hey, Tom, do you like my script? But he sent it to me, and I loved it. I thought his writing was fantastic, and I tried to get that movie made for a while. But that was a way in for me to then go, oh, I'll collaborate with you. But I think I often go to events. I meet screenwriters. I meet people all the time. And obviously, if you're in the middle of nowhere and that's very difficult to do, it's very hard. But there is courses like Raindance. There's other places, the screenwriting forums. Clubhouse is now an amazing place to collaborate with people and find other screenwriters and find people on Twitter. It's sad, but that's the truth. You can find other screenwriters and suddenly you're collaborating. It's scary sending stuff out to people you don't know, but if you're struggling, the more you can be on social with your stuff, not chucking it out, but I mean with other people, is a good thing. So yes, it's not easy, Christopher, to find co-writers who are on your wavelength, but I think the best place is just to chuck it out. You could you can put it on Facebook. Anyone fancy writing a sci-fi with me, or looking for a sci-fi writer to co-write? There'll be a load, and then you've got to wade through them.
Yeah.
But I'm not suggesting you do that, but I'm saying it is a way. Or people other maybe thing to do is to find, like say, go on IMDb, people who have already had films out, and maybe it was 5 years ago and they've not had another one, and you write to them. Yeah. Find their details and go, hey, listen, look, I've got this idea. I loved your last film. And make sure you watch it, by the way, and say you loved it and mean it, even if you've watched the trailer. And then say, look, would you be interested in collaborating? So it's the way to go. It's not easy to find the right people, that's for sure. But there are routes to do it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Giles. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Christopher, we've also, if you want to put it in the chat, obviously there's lots of writers here today. So if you are looking for somebody...
It almost seems silly to say I don't know any writers whilst being in this group, but it's weird kind of reaching out. Not
at all, but also we do often do shout outs in our newsletters as well. So if you're specifically looking for collaborators, then we're happy to give you a shout out as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, perfect.
What is it? What kind of a movie?
Well,
don't go into detail, but just like, is it a sci-fi, horror, comedy?
I've got like 4. So I got comedy, one hot kind of psychological horror thing, which is more Lynchian, I suppose, than
which is the one you want to collab with someone with?
I guess it's weird saying horror because it's kind of weird, like what you were saying with the Dare. It's very much about my childhood, really. So ideally it would be finding someone who has a similar childhood to me to then kind of be like, hey, do you remember this period of your time and your life? But then that's not vital, is it?
You need a twin to do that.
Yeah.
So I think, well, actually, sometimes it's better to find someone with a different background to you, because they see right. that you often can get too lost in your own little world where someone goes, "No, it's just crap, mate. No. The idea is there, but let's do this with it." Sometimes that can work too. So
you're right. I immediately regretted saying someone like me. The second I said it, I was like, I don't even really mean that, but I've said it now. So.
Yeah, great. Someone's put in the chat here about Austin Film Festival, incredible lasting friendships, and they do Zoom table reads with scripts. I think that was Randall. So yeah, there you go. There's so many places. Collaborators do that. Like you say, there's plenty of places you can find people to collab with. So yeah, thanks, Christopher.
Cool. Thanks.
So Christopher, just to say, Sarah K. Watson, who's on here, says she's keen. So by all means, do swap your emails in the chat. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could be synchronicity has you in the same place at the same time.
There you go.
Perfect. Hey, Sarah, wherever you are.
Carolina, I think you had a question too.
Yes, thank you. Hello. I have a question as a director. I'm good at some things, but it's really close to Christopher's question. That's funny. It's really hard to me to find a producer or someone to sell my short movies, and none of my friends are doing these kind of things. And I was wondering how you find producers. Where do you find them? And I don't know anyone who would be interested in producing my movies for now.
Okay, it's a good question. Again, it really is about being in the right place at the right time sometimes, but it also is about sending your work out. If you're trying to get your short films like on platforms, there are various platforms you can get them on, but sometimes if you're a filmmaker, you just kind of best put them out. People do worry about, oh, if we're waiting for this festival and we want to get in there, and actually sometimes as a filmmaker, if you haven't got into Rain Dance that year, then actually stick them on YouTube, you know what I mean? And literally go, what do you think? Because then people can watch your work and you might find a producer that way. Whereas if you're waiting for a festival for 2 years sometimes, we just got into a film festival in the back end of nowhere in a year's time. Now you can't put it on YouTube for that time. Though a lot of festivals have changed now and you can. I'm always of the opinion, unless you're going to go to, there's a few sites that do this where you can, we did this with our short films, and actually they what the hell is it called? There's a few sites where you can put your short films on and other companies will come and look at a load of short films, and if it works, they will then put it on their platforms. The idea of you making much money from this is pretty much zero. We did a short which had some big names in it, and I think we might have made £20. And that effort to put it up there and do all the work and delivering it, honestly, it's hard. But sometimes just stick it on YouTube, and that way you can then write to some producers. Again, your path is your own path, and don't do what I'm saying necessarily, but that way you can actually approach producers and go, hey, we made this film, here it is, you can actually watch it now, and it's got a load of lovely comments from your friends, and your friends have watched it and helped you out. And then you can find producers on IMDb or in events like this, or at the Rain Dance meet and greets. It's true, they're all there. These places actually do exist, and these social events where you can meet other producers. Producers are hard, especially at that level, because why would a producer, and this is the honest truth, why would a producer spend time trying to make your movie? What's so special about your movie that they're going to spend the next 2 years of their life trying to make, when they could be going, well, I can go over there and make that one with the established writer or the established exec. So you've got to really think outside the box of why your film would be entertaining to them in any way, or even make them open the email. And if it's niche, if you've researched that producer and you know that they really love skydiving, and you've got a skydiving movie, you've now got an in. The person's always wanting to do that. I know James McAvoy's always wanting to make a football movie, but has he found the right script yet? You know what I mean? It's all these type of things that you just have to really think outside the box, and don't wait for anyone to come to you. And if nothing else, produce it yourself. Learn to do it, or like I say, collaborate with people who are learning at the same time and go, come on, let's produce this together. And the more you do, the more people will join you and join your tribe. And you might ask for a favor from someone like me who goes, yeah, I'll oversee it for you. Okay, I'll make sure that you're not going down to the wrong path. And it's finding people like that who can just give you a guiding hand. And I was lucky enough to just make sure I was in the right places at the right time and knew enough people. And if you don't ask, you don't get. And just ask, be brave, and see what happens. I hope that helps. I know it's not easy finding producers or money. It's the hardest thing ever. It really is. But if you keep doing it, keep writing and keep making things, it's more likely to happen for you, rather than sitting on a script and going, oh, no one's going to make it. Go make it yourself.
Well, that's very sage advice, Giles. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending tonight with us.
Pleasure.
So generous
Absolute pleasure.
time. Thank you.
Good. I hope you all learned something, if anything, from my witterings. But yes, I hope it was good for you all, and thank you for joining us.
It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Good luck, everyone. Do follow me on the Twitter and stuff and Insta, and I'll follow you back and come say hello and say we met on here. Happily do that for you. No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Giles. And thank you, everybody, for coming and asking such wonderful questions. This is actually the highlight of my month. I really look forward to these sessions. I really, really do. You're like my creative family. So thank you so much for being there as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you all for your lovely comments on the side here now. Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Don't give up.
Thank you, Giles.
Would you mind giving us your Twitter handle?
Yeah, at Giles Alderson. Just my name. Yeah. That's where I'm most active. So I put most of the stuff up. So groovy.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And if you want to listen to the podcast, do Filmmakers Podcast. But yeah, thank you all. I've enjoyed this a lot. Been cool.
Excellent.
Thanks, Giles.
Thanks, Jennie.
Giles.
You were brilliant.
Appreciate it.
Really enjoyed that. Thanks, everyone.
Take
All
care.
the best. Good luck.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.